Hello students, welcome to the class. So today we will see the JEPYQ's part 3 of the same chapter, classification of elements and periodicity in properties, chapter number 3. This is the disclaimer. Here is your first question. Inert gases have positive electron gain enthalpy. Its correct order is. So different orders are given for the 4 noble gases, xenon, krypton, neon and helium. You have to see that which order is correct. Your time to solve this question starts now. Okay, your time is up. So in this question, there is quite anomaly present along the trend, right? So I would suggest you to remember this trend. Okay. So let us see what is the correct answer. For those who have solved it, the correct order is C. Now this may surprise you a bit. To answer this question, I would first refer to the NCERT table 3.7. So there we have the options. For helium, it is plus 48. Then comes the xenon. Then comes krypton. And then neon. Now, it is very difficult to rationalize this trend as it is not following any absolute rationalization. So, what you will do in this case, you have to learn this trend. Okay. So, you should learn starting from helium, neon, then krypton, and then neon. Okay. Helium, xenon, krypton, and then neon. There is a possible explanation for this question. What would be that explanation? So, if you consider the case of helium, then due to its small size, it is easily able to accept the electron. Okay, so this would be the best explanation. Again, I am repeating it because helium has the smallest size, so it will have greater influence on the incoming electron and therefore it will accept electron easily. And hence we are seeing a small amount of energy released. After that, we have a neon, but after neon, we don't see such pattern. Then what is the reason behind the exception that has come in case of krypton and xenon? The reason is involvement of the D and F subshell. Okay. So up till neon, there is no D and F subshell in the inner core. But as you move to this krypton and xenon, you have more and more number of D and F subshell coming. Now, due to the poor shielding of the D and F, the proton attracts the outermost shell very strongly and hence their size reduces. So again, I am just summarizing all of this. So helium has the smallest size, so it will accept electron easily. And next comes your neon, which has a larger size, but the krypton and xenon have a D and F cell in the inner core, resulting in poor shielding effect and hence lower energy release. So what would be the correct order? Firstly your neon, then krypton, then xenon, and then helium. I hope you got the point. If not, just try to remember this electron gain enthalpy order. It's very important. Next question. Anomalous behavior of oxygen is due to. So 4 characteristics are given here. Regarding the size and the electronegativity, you have to say that out of these, which is the correct characteristic of the oxygen due to which it is showing an anomalous behavior. So your time starts now. A tip for this question would be, it is belonging to the second period. Okay. And it is the first member of its chalcogen group. So your time is up. What will be the correct order? So C will be the correct option. Due to its small size and high electronegativity, we are seeing such kind of trend. So let us try to just visualize this with the help of its position. Two things are there, right? We are worried about the electronegativity and the atomic radius. So just think about the general trend and that will give you away your answer. So in understanding the position of oxygen, we know that it falls in the first period, first of all. Okay, it falls in the second period. And it is a member of the chalcogen family, right? Which is group number 16. Next is, if it is falling in the second period and it is a member of the chalcogen family, then what does it mean? It means two things. If I talk about the electronegativity, then according to the general trend, electronegativity decreases down the group. Means the element that is present on the top of the group will be the most electronegative. Similarly, it increases across a period. So elements on the rightmost part are the most electronegative element. Apart from the noble gas, they have a zero electronegativity. As a result of these two trends, you can just sync these two trends and clearly say that oxygen will have a high electronegativity or it will be highly electronegative. Now, what would be the prediction for the atomic radius according to this trend? According to the general trend, we know that atomic radius decreases across a period and it increases down the group. So we can easily say that elements which are present on the rightmost part of the periodic table and are present on the top of the group will have a very small radius because the size is increasing from left to right and it is increasing from top to bottom. Okay. So from these two lines, what we can conclude? We can conclude that oxygen is highly electronegative and very small in size. Coming on to the next question. Again, it's a MCQ type, but a specific MCQ, which is assertion reason. You have to look at these two statements and predict that whether these two statements are right or wrong. And then you have to tell that the reason that is given as R is correctly explaining the assertion or not. Four options are there. Question says that there is a considerable increase in covalent radius from nitrogen to phosphorus. However, from arsenic to bismuth, only a small increase in covalent radius is observed. The reason is given that covalent and ionic radius or radii in a particular oxidation state increases down the group. So options are A is false, but B, R is true. B, both A and R are true, but R is not the correct explanation of A. C, A is true, but R is false. And D, both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. Remember, students, if you are moving from arsenic to bismuth, you are involving the d orbital. So that would be the hint for this question. Your time starts now. Oh, what will be the correct answer? The correct answer will be option number B. Your reason and assertion both are correct statements individually, but your reason is not explaining the assertion completely. So let's see. So first of all, we will talk about the assertion. As we know, the assertion is true. Why it is happening? Because as we are moving from nitrogen to phosphorus, we are moving down the group. Number of shells that will be added will increase the size from nitrogen to phosphorus. So increasing the shell means simply increasing the principal quantum number, adding an extra shell to the same electronic configuration. Okay. Now, if you consider the case of arsenic to bismuth, there is an increase in the covalent radius, of course, but that increase is not that much significant as compared to nitrogen to phosphorus. Okay. Now, what is the reason behind it? The reason is the involvement of D and F electrons. If you look at the period of arsenic and bismuth, in that group, your D and F subshells are being fulfilled. Now, in fulfilling that, you, in a way, are decreasing the shielding effect because D and F have a poor shielding effect. Now, this phenomena is related to a very famous terminology known as lanthanide contraction. Okay. So, due to the poor shielding of D and F subshell, the contraction of the size takes place, and that phenomena is called as lanthanide contraction. So, we can say that assertion is completely true. Let us talk about the reason. If you look at the reason, then it is true, of course. There is no issue in that because your atomic and ionic size do increase down a group due to the addition of extra electron shells. But this reason is just a general statement. It is not explaining the exceptional behavior from arsenic to bismuth. That why specifically the size is not increasing significantly. So that is being not explained in the reason. Only a general overview is given. Therefore, what we will say that your reason is general statement and it is not explaining the assertion completely. I hope you got my point, what I'm trying to say. Okay. Therefore, both A and R are true, but R is not the correct explanation of A. Moving on to the next question. Now we have already done this question in the previous PYQ part also, but this time I am trying to put it in a simpler way. Okay, then rather than going through a tedious way, we will try a shortcut. We will look on to that. Meanwhile, you can solve it. Your time to solve this question starts now. So what will be the correct answer? It will be n is equals to 11. Okay. So let us see how it is possible. First of all, we will try to relate that what is the atomic number related to this given IUPAC name. So 3 times un is written and un is a numerical root for digit 1. And em is the suffix which is coming after putting all the numerical roots. So this is a general pattern to write the atomic number of elements that is higher. Okay. So following these two trends, we can say that the atomic number of the given element is 111. Okay. Or 111. Now, what you will do? In the most conventional method, you will try to determine the electronic configuration of the given element, and then from there you can get the group number. So that is the conventional method. But here I will tell you a very simple shortcut to do the same question. How you will figure it out? Very simple. So what you have to determine? You have to determine the group number. What is the last element of the periodic table? It is 118. So what you do is you take the last element, that is group 18 element of every period. Then you see that which atomic number is exceeding your atomic number 111. As soon as you see that number, just compare its position relative to the 118th element. Or suppose it is coming from the above period, then you compare it with the corresponding noble gas. Here it is coming from the last, that is 7th period, and we know that on the 7th period, 118 element is the last one. Okay. Now, how many elements before your 111th element will come? So simply subtract it, 118 minus 111. So 7. So you move 7th position back from the 118th. On moving back, you will move from group 18 to which group? So 18 minus 7 will give you group 11. Okay, you can solve for each and every element and find its group number using this simple technique. You just have to remember the last element of that corresponding period. As simple as that. So to learn the periodic table, you can have various types of, I would say, mnemonics or shortcuts. But what I would suggest is you learn the periodic table group wise. So do not learn it in this way, hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, okay, in a chronicle manner. Instead of that, remember it group wise. Means first you remember hydrogen, then comes your lithium, then sodium, then potassium, and in this way you should remember all. Talking about the mnemonics, you can find a number of mnemonics. So that is a different thing. But suppose if you are trying to learn the manganese group, then it is simply mantakre. Okay, so manganese, then technetium, then rhenium. Okay, so that's a simple way. There are much more ways to do that. You can easily find it on different platforms, and it is also available on our forum. You can see there. But the main point is that you must try to remember the elements group wise. So this is the most important part. Okay. Now coming back to the question, we have found that your element unnium is belonging to the 11th group. Therefore, what will be the correct answer? N will be equals to 11. I hope this is clear to you. Now moving on to the next question. Given below are two statements. One is labeled as assertion A and the other is labeled as reason R. Assertion A says that the hydride of tellurium is more acidic than the hydride of sulfur. Reason is bond dissociation enthalpy of hydride of tellurium is lower than that of hydrogen sulfide. So again, this is a reason assertion type. You have 4 different options given here. A is false but R is true. A is true but R is false. Then both A and R are true. R is the correct explanation of A and R is not the correct explanation of A. So your time to solve this question starts now. Simply think about the bond enthalpy as you move down the group, and that will be quickly related to the atomic size. So your time is up. The correct answer will be option number B. So your reason and assertion both are true, and reason is the very correct explanation of A. How we'll understand it? It's very simple. You just have to know that what is acidity. So acidity is your tendency to lose the H plus ion. the more easier for the compound to lose the H plus ion, the more acidic the compound is. Now, it is seen that acidity for the hydrides increases down the group. So if you have a hydride that is belonging to the lower member of the group, then it will be more acidic. What is the reason behind it? It is due to the weaker bond strength of hydrogen and tellurium. So you know that tellurium has a large size, okay? Due to this large size, it is not forming a very good bond with the hydrogen. How we will understand it? So basically, when we form a chemical bond, it is mandatory for the element forming bond to be closer in energy. Much they are closer in energy, more stable bond is formed. If you compare tellurium and hydrogen, their size difference is very, very large, or it is very significant. Now, due to this large size difference, their energy difference is also large. So they don't make up a good bond. Okay? And that is a general trend seen in a group. Due to this large size, it is easily able to donate its proton. And the reason says the same thing. Since your hydrogen-tellurium bond is weaker, therefore, it will be more acidic than the HS, or you would say the H2S. And that credit goes to the large size of the tellurium completely. Okay? No other reason can explain it. A very simple reason is that your size is large. So what we can say finally? That the weaker bond in H2Te makes it easier to lose the H plus ion. Therefore, the correct answer is both assertion and reason are correct, and reason is the correct explanation of A. Moving on to the next question. Given below are two statements. Statement 1. Along the period, the chemical reactivity of the element gradually increases from group 1 to group 18. And the second statement is, the nature of the oxides formed by group 1 elements is basic, while that of group 17 element is acidic. 4 options are given here. Both statement 1 and statement 2 are true. B, statement 1 is true but statement 2 is false. C, statement 1 is false but statement 2 is true. And D, both statement 1 and statement 2 is false. So your time to solve this question starts now. We already know about the oxides and we have discussed about the chemical reactivity in our theory classes. So just try to remember that part and it's very easy to answer. And you will get your marks in the JEE PYQs for that chapter. So I would encourage all of you to practice this JEE PYQs, right? So it's the most important part of your strategy in clearing any exam. So I'm not talking just about JEE. You should always try PYQs for each and every exam. And from practicing the PYQs, you will get an idea. Okay, and just try to solve it from the back. Okay, so most of the students just practice the questions of the recent years and do not go for the questions asked in the previous year. So try to solve them. If they are subjective, then also include them in your practicing session if you have time. Okay. So for those who have solved it, the correct statement is C. Statement 1 is false, but statement 2 is true. How will say it? For the statement 1, we know the trend of chemical reactivity. We have already seen it. Okay. What is that trend? That reactivity first decreases towards the middle. So your metals will have the maximum reactivity and the metals that are present on the leftmost part, like your alkali and the alkaline earth metals. Then as you move across a period, the reactivity will decrease and it will decrease up to the transition element, which is your D block. But as you move away from the transition element towards the right, the reactivity again starts to increase. And it increases up to the group 17 for the non-metal. We know that group 18 is not reactive at all, so we will not include that in our discussion. Therefore, since your noble gases are inert, we cannot conclude them in our discussion. Now, we can easily say from these three statements that reactivity is not gradually increasing. It is having a non-generic trend. So it is first decreasing, then increasing, and at last it is becoming almost zero for the noble gases. Now, we will move on to the next statement, which is statement number 2. So what we can say about statement number 2? It is absolutely correct. So, metallic character decreases across a period, and metals always form basic oxides. So we know it that sodium and your lithium all are basic in nature, whereas your right side elements, oxygen, then your iodine and all halogens are non-metallic in nature. So what we can say that metallic character decreases across a period. Second thing, if they are metallic, then their oxides must be basic. Example, your Na2O and K2O, which are oxides of potassium and sodium. Whereas the non-metal oxides will be acidic in nature. Example, Cl2O7. Remember, there are some examples of neutral oxides. So I would encourage you to write their names by yourself. Okay, so what are the names of the neutral oxides? From these two lines, what we can say? That statement 1 is false, but statement 2 is true, because metallic character is decreasing. Therefore, the basicity of the oxides will also decrease. And on the rightmost part, the 17 group element will be the most basic one. Yes, the correct answer for the neutral oxides will be NoCO, N2O. Now, moving on to the next question. The correct sequence of electron gain enthalpy of the element listed below is, option are given here, and 4 elements are given: argon, bromine, fluorine, and sulfur. And you have to arrange them in the correct order of electron gain enthalpy. Your time to solve this question starts now. The correct order will be C, B, D, and A. So fluorine will be the one which is having the highest electron gain enthalpy. Then comes your bromine. After that, we have the D option, which is sulfur. And lastly, we have the argon. How we are saying so? To understand this, we will look at each of these elements one by one. We know that electron gain enthalpy has two parts. Okay, so it is the energy change when an electron is added to it. And second, more negative is the value, easier the tendency to accept the electron. If I talk about the argon, which is element number A, it has a complete octet. Okay, so it has no tendency to accept the electron and hence has a 0 electron gain enthalpy. What about bromine? So bromine is a halogen. Of course, it is electronegative in nature and it wants to complete its octet. So it will have a large negative electron gain enthalpy. Now moving on to the next element. The next element is fluorine. Of course, your fluorine is having a lower electron gain enthalpy as compared to the chlorine. But still, it has a higher electron gain enthalpy as compared to the bromine. So do not confuse here. Okay, so it's very important. Remember, your fluorine has a smaller electron gain enthalpy as compared to the chlorine, but it has a higher electron gain enthalpy than all of the remaining halogens, including your bromine. Lastly comes your sulfur. So of course, they are less electronegative than this halogens, and hence they will have a lower electron gain enthalpy. Therefore, we can write the order as first is a fluorine, then bromine, sulfur, and then argon. The correct order is C, B, D, and A. Moving on to the next question. So here 4 elements are given and they are named as A, B, C, and D. Left to right is your period. Top to bottom is your group, just like a periodic table. Now you have to look at all the trends that are given here and predict whether these trends are correct or not for the respective elements if they have the corresponding position in the periodic table. So your time to solve this question starts now. So what will be the option here? Correct option. What do you know about the radius? If we are moving across a period, we know that your radius decreases. So of course your A and B, if you compare, then A will be smaller, then A will be larger in size. Okay, so it means that this is given correctly, and same goes for your ionic radius. So we have already talked about this, that if your charge is same, that means your radius will be also following the same trend as that your atomic radius. For B plus, then A plus. But what about the C and D? So C and D are falling in a greater period or at a greater group. That means extra number of shells, which will result in a greater size. So what we can say, that C and D will have a greater size as compared to A and B because they fall in a higher period number. But again, we will use the same trend, that your C will be greater than D. Now that will give you away your respective atomic radius. So B, then A, then D, and then C. And this is followed for both ionic and the atomic radius. But what about the size of the element? Isn't the size related to atomic radius? If the radius will be large, of course, your element will have a greater size. So that is very obvious, because size is what? Size is related to the area of that, or you would say the volume of that sphere of the atom. And greater is the radius, greater is the area occupied by the sphere. Now, being that said, this order will be completely wrong because it is following the opposite pattern of the radius. Instead of that, it should be directly proportional. So C will be the wrong statement. Now, if C is the wrong statement, then which is the right option? A only, A, B, and D only, C, A and B only, D, B, C, and D only. So this is your final question, means final options. Obviously, your correct statements are A, B, and D. So D will be your correct answer. So what we can say? That A, B, and D are only correct. And why is it so? Because according to the general trend, the order of atomic radius and metallic character will be given by BADC. So we have not talked about the metallic character. We know that the atomic radius increases down the group and decreases across a period. That is the reason we are getting the trend. But what about the metallic character? Why it is following the same trend? If you remember the metallic character trend, then metallic character decreases from left to right and increases from top to bottom. Now that quickly aligns with the atomic radii order. Therefore, your metallic character and your atomic radii will follow the same trend. Okay, I hope this is clear to you. Now, what about the remaining two trends? Let us talk about them. So, we will now talk about the order of ionic radii. The order of ionic radii is absolutely correct. Why? Because your atomic size and your ionic radii both follow the same trend, but they are modified. If the charge is different, you cannot take the same trend. As long as the charge is same, you can see that it is +1 for all of them. Therefore, this order will be same as that of the atomic radius. Now, the trend which is wrong is your statement C. And the correct trend would be BADC, which is same as your A, B, and D. Okay? And what is the reason? The reason is your size. So, this size is consistent with the atomic radii trend. So, we can say that option B is correct, which is A, B, and D only. Moving on to the next question. The bond dissociation energy is highest for. So, you have 4 options. So, again, it is an anomaly. You have 4 different halogen molecules: chlorine, iodine, bromine, and fluorine. Your time to solve this question starts now. So, the most expected answer would be, so if you just follow the normal trend, then the answer would be fluorine. Okay. Now, for those who have solved it for fluorine, no problem. So, it is wrong, but still we will talk about that. Okay. So, remembering from your mistakes is the greatest weapon, okay, in your examination point of view. So, coming back to the question, so chlorine will be the correct answer. So, that would be option number A. Now, how that is so? To understand, let us look at the solution. The general trend says that your bond dissociation energy generally decreases down the group because the distance between the atoms are increasing, and as the bond length increases, the bond enthalpy decreases. So, we will talk about that trend. So, it's a general trend that if your size is increasing, the bond dissociation energy will decrease. We have already seen the impact of the same trend in the previous question, where we have compared the bond enthalpy of hydrogen tellurium and hydrogen sulfur. And the reason behind it is the longer bond length. But expectation says that fluorine should have the highest bond dissociation energy. But what is the correct order? The correct thing is that F2 has a weak bond. Okay? F2 has a weak bond as compared to the fluorine. Yes, the fluorine will have a very small size, due to which there will be repulsion between the lone pairs and the bond will become weaker. Whereas the Cl2 will have a optimal. Okay, so the word optimum means they are well balanced. Both your size and the bond length are well balanced, due to which it has a very large bond enthalpy as compared to the F2. So, due to the higher electronic repulsion, in a small sized atom of fluorine, it has a weak bond and a weak bond dissociation energy. So Cl2 has the highest bond dissociation energy as a result of the small size due to optimal bond length and the less repulsion. So this word optimal means they are both balancing each other and creating a perfect circumstance for a higher electron bond dissociation energy. Okay, I hope this is clear to you. Now just wait for a while. Meanwhile, I will move on to the DPPs. You can ask your doubt in the comment section. So I'm sharing a DPP with you. So this is a DPP from the structure of atom. So that will help you to grasp the concept of the previous chapter, because revision is the most important part. What is the n plus L value for the 4s orbital? So 4 options are given here. So if you consider the 4s orbital, then it has n value as 4 and s value as 0. L value as 0 because it is s subshell. Therefore, your correct answer will be 4, which is option number A. Moving on to the next question. Which of the following is not permissible? So 4 different combinations of 3 quantum numbers are given here. What will be the correct answer? The correct answer will be option number C. Yes, very good. How it is possible that it is incorrect? Because your L value can only grow from 0 to n minus 1. So the n minus 1 value means 4 minus 3. So 0 to 3. So that will give you 0, 1, 2 and 3. So these 3 L values are possible. So we can say that since this value is equals to 4, and hence it is not possible to have an electron which has these 3 set of quantum number. Moving on to the next question. The maximum number of electrons that can be accommodated in M shell is. So I guess it is very simple. Now I would also encourage you to find the number of orbitals in this given shell. So what will the number of orbitals if I talk about the M shell? So K, L and M. That means 1, 2 and 3. So 2n square, you're using a formula 9 to the 18. Now what is the number of orbitals for this M shell? Anyone? I think it is incorrect. What is the number of orbitals? No, it is not 36. So if there are 36 orbitals, that means there will be 72 electrons, because each orbital can contain 2 electrons. So again, I am giving you a hint. Since your one orbital can contain 2 electrons, and if the number of electron is 18, then what will be the number of orbitals? Yes, it will be 9. Simply use the formula n square. So this is 3, so 3 square is 9. Okay. So here the correct answer will be 18. Moving on to the next question. What is the correct electronic configuration of an atom with an atomic number 29? What is the correct answer for this question? Remember, it is an anomaly. So this is clearly incorrect because your iron falls in the which period? So what is the period number of iron? It is falling in the 3D transition series, right? So that means 4th period. Okay. So this is not possible. This is also not possible. So your correct answer will be option number A. What would be the normal configuration? If I ask you what will be the normal configuration, suppose the half-filled and full-filled concept was not existing. Then what would be the correct option? then B would be the correct option. Okay, so this would be the expected one. But due to the extra stability of the 3D10, we are moving one electron from the 4s to the 3D. Therefore, your correct answer will be option number A. Moving on to the next question. The unpaired electron, 3 unpaired electrons are present in oxygen, nitrogen, chlorine and bromine. So what will be the correct answer? It will be nitrogen. So if I ask you that what is the physical property that is being affected due to this, I would say 3 unpaired electron in case of nitrogen, if you compare it with the oxygen. So what is that physical property which is being altered and it is not following the general trend due to this half-filled configuration of nitrogen as compared to the oxygen? Anyone who remember that part? No, it's not size. It's not electronegativity. Of course, electronegativity has nothing to do with the half-filled or full-filled configuration. Remember the ionization energy. Okay? It will be the ionization energy. So it is difficult to remove an electron from the nitrogen as compared to the oxygen. Although your oxygen is falling after nitrogen, nitrogen will have a greater ionization energy. So this was the anomaly. Okay. So correct option will be B. Right? I hope you enjoyed the lecture. So this was all for today's class. Thank you.